Welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast, a production from Empowering Pumps and Equipment as the voice of the pump and related equipment industries. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast. I'm your host, Charli Matthews. I'm having a great day. I have had such a fun time learning and hearing people's stories, and I have another one for you today. I have seen him in action at different events, different energy from the trade show floor to a presentation to social media. And I'll just let you kind of take it over from here and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I know. We always run into each other at all the different, industry events, and we've had a chance to connect in the past. So when you suggested that I come on and hang out with you on the pod, I'm like, yeah, of course, absolutely, I'd do that.
Absolutely. And, I do want people to know who you are because you're such a thought leader in the industry. And so, tell them who you are, what you do.
Yeah. My name's Tunji Asiwaju. I'm the global offering manager for building lifecycle performance solutions. For some of you that might be more familiar with the term services and parts, aftermarket services and spare parts. And so I've been with Armstrong now. I'm in year 11 plus. Just this March marked 11 years. Different roles in that time. And really just helping Armstrong bring to the forefront the idea of connected services and cloud services in the HVAC industry, particularly pumps, but more HVAC solutions as we roll out new products going into the future. So that's why you see me speaking at a lot of the trade show of AHR, and I'm on the show floor and different speaking events across the world, really, but definitely North America, bringing the message to the masses. Bit of an evangelist. I think in the Silicon Valley world, they call it an evangelist or whatever. So I wear that hat among many hats here at Armstrong.
Yeah, and we need it. We have to have it. I always thought it was funny how the mechanical and the electrical people had to talk to each other. And then you just add a whole nother element with that, with digitization and how the future is going to come, and we have to be prepared for it. So getting everybody on board with that, right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, like a lot of the chiller guys have been doing it for a while, connecting chillers and their big, energy consuming machines. The other equipment that you would see in a typical mechanical room, it's more recent. So for Armstrong, it was with the launch of our design envelope pumps back in the fall of 2017. That was the first product we had that was cloud connectable, using the internet capabilities of the building, or we also have our own connectivity kits, and that's where the magic happens, right? Data analytics. Back then it was big data was the term everyone liked to use, but now it's more AI is popular, right? Everywhere you go, AI, this is AI, and then you look at it, it's not really AI, it's maybe more machine learning, maybe, if that, but that's the big term. Who knows what the fancy term will be 5 years from now? It'll be something else that some PhD from wherever came up with, and it becomes popular. So, but the concept is the same: connecting equipment so you can maintain its performance over its 15-year, if it's a pump, or 20-year life if it's a chiller, or 20 years if it's a cooling tower. Not just purchase it, install it, and then call us in 20 years when you need a new one, but we want to make sure that the performance is optimal over its life. So that's where we come in, and that's why it happens in an aftermarket space for sure.
So tell me how one with such energy and personality as an evangelist comes in here into the industry. How did you get on this journey?
Yeah, it's a good question. My undergrad's in engineering physics, which actually isn't HVAC at all, more in micro nano electronics. I did have a programming background, and then I did a master's in mechanical engineering, which you could easily end up in the HVAC industry. And so my first role out of school, which is like over 12, 13 years ago, was I was a BMS tech. So I started from the bottom. I started from the bottom. Now I'm here, but I was a BMS tech, and I was climbing ladders, getting on rooftops, doing configurations. We were using the Richard Zeta controllers back then, when Cisco was in the industry before they sold everything off, and then we moved over to the JASAs. And so that's how I started. I did that for a few years, and then I got picked up by Armstrong to help them with their aftermarket data analytics programs. since I had a programming background and I was a BMS tech. So it kind of came together. And then that was like 2012. Where's my math? 2013, something like that. 2013. And then we came up with our new product line and it evolved from there. And then I ended up being an offering manager. And that's just how it goes, I suppose.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that is you kind of find something you're interested in college, and you go down a path, and then you find a job, and maybe you go back to school, or maybe you don't even start out that way. Maybe you just start out working, and then you
Mm-hmm.
adapt, and you know need to get a certificate, or there's so many
Mm-hmm.
different ways that we can get to where we are. But it is fascinating every time I ask this, and like there's so many different careers out there that I haven't even heard of, and
Mm-hmm.
so I think that our industry is really great. And I say ours because it can just, I normally say the pump industry, but it goes beyond that,
Yeah.
right? And, but we need it. We need it from all of our comforts. I love, HVAC for specifically plumbing. It's what happens behind the wall. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
cares until they see it,
Mm-hmm.
until something breaks. But
Mm-hmm.
it's so important for our comfort and, to keep us healthy and running, our lives at ease. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's always going to be a job there. So how do you get people on board with this? Because I had kind of a stint where I was educating people on social media and how to use it. So I kind of understand a little bit of the struggle of getting kind of this mechanical industry on board with connectivity. How have you been able to do that?
Yeah, it's so interesting. So I would say there's a couple different vectors that have happened at the same time. Number one, we live in a world where everything's getting connected. First of all, everyone's got a cell phone in their back pocket or in their purse, and now even Tesla cars, they're connected. So I think at this time you can't be driving while it's doing an update, but everything's connected. I think even like a lot of the new refrigerators, like the super expensive ones, Maytag, they can tell you when you're running out of milk. So you walk into like a Kruger's. I'm Canadian, so we don't have Kroger's, but I think you guys have Kroger's. And so your phone will beep and it'll say, "Hey, don't forget you're running out of milk," because it's your fridge knows that you don't have milk. So like everything's connected. It's just the way the world is. So why not HVAC? Why not pumps? Why not chillers and cooling towers and all the other stuff that we're familiar with? And so I think we're sort of as an industry behind what's happening with the rest of the world, and we're catching up. But it's inevitable. It was always going to happen. And
I
all the
just saw
major
the commercial actually on that where it was like pinging you, don't forget your, smoothie or something like that
yeah.
for lunch. I was just like, okay, that's cool. And that's probably pretty needed for me of like, what are you forgetting? But that's where the technology comes in. It
Yes.
helps us remember the process or the must do's, if you will.
Yeah.
And I just think that is, one of the gifts of technologies. There's plenty of other things that we aren't so happy about, but that's definitely one of our gifts of technology to kind of help us along. So, I've given Gloria a moment to get on here
Yeah.
she won't be on camera unless she turns it on, but I just wanted to make sure before, we went further so it wouldn't interrupt your thought or
Yeah, no
something.
worries. I
Yeah.
see Gloria, you're joining us. So we're doing a bit of a podcast and we're hanging out. And so if you want to turn your camera, that's great. And we're just kind of catching up, Charlie and I, on some fun stuff. So
Yeah.
thanks for joining. We'll give you
Yeah.
a second to introduce yourself to the camera if you get a chance.
Yeah, you let us know, Gloria, what you want to do there. If you're just wanting to listen, oh, there she
There
is.
she is.
Say hello to everyone.
Hi everyone. So sorry I'm late.
No
Oh,
worries.
you're not good. You're
Uh,
good. You did not. This is a bonus for me, Gloria. I didn't know you were jumping on here with us, so I'm excited about that. So why don't we do that? Why don't we just let you introduce yourself to the team? To the listeners, but you are new to the team, which we love. So tell everybody what you do.
hello everyone. My name is Gloria and I'm the regional marketing communication manager for US at Armstrong Fluid Technology. Like Charlie said, I've just started, so it's been 5 months now already. Time flies. I'm really excited to be in this HVAC business, but I mean, previously I've worked in most of them in B2C, but a bit of experience in HVAC. So fairly new to the HVAC industry as well. But yeah, it's excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, so we were just kind of talking about the connected side of everything, and basically it takes a little while for people to get there. I mean, it takes the updates, everybody getting the same software and all of that. But once you have that, right? And then where do we go with that? Tunjin, you're really
Yeah.
kind of setting us up for that of like,
Yeah.
okay, we're all connected now. How do
Mhm.
we get everybody on board?
Yeah, you were asking me earlier, like, how do we bring it to our industry? The other piece that I would say, so part A of your question was everything's getting connected, so why not HVAC? Part B was COVID. So what I've noticed is when the whole world was locked down, people are like, well, I still need to stay connected to whatever, my HVAC system at the office or some remote system in the middle of the Bering Strait or whatever, right? And so people are more open to this idea of connecting even their pumps, even their chillers. And I've seen the change because with Armstrong, we launched our connected product way before, like it was way before COVID. It was 2017, COVID was like 2020, depending on where you are in the world. But now, and I used to have to go out and evangelize connectivity. This is why it's good. Here are the benefits. Now people are calling me and saying, hey, I have your pumps. Can you still connect them? I'm like, yes, of course. We'll come out and we'll do it. People are coming to me. So I've seen that difference to answer your question. It's been a bit easier since a lot of things in life have not been easier since COVID, but that has been easier.
That absolutely was a good blessing or gift. We talked about gifts, or that's the gift of that, if anything, is
Yeah,
that
silver lining.
we did go and learn how and it's necessary now because we are traveling all over. The growth of our companies are global in a lot of cases, and just supply chain and things
Yep.
like that you want to make sure that you have some type of pulse on, and so that we can do work because we realize, again, this is an essential environment, especially if you get into some of the water systems that are used for critical critical equipment, and making sure that it's able to run and produce whatever that product is from the end user. It's in everything. So water's in everything. There's a HVAC system in every building, and so I say every building. I'm sure there's some out there, but ideally we are providing that service, which is needed for everyone. Um, what has been, I guess, a success or like a story where you just are like, the person actually needed to be connected, right? Like if they weren't, do you have any stories like that where you can help that customer?
Sure. I mean, a common thing. So at Armstrong, we have our pump manager service. I know this wasn't supposed to be a plug for all that stuff, but
I love that stuff. I mean, okay. First of all, me and Becca, we have to say this. We love HR and coming to Armstrong's booth. It's always innovative and cool. And the presentations we've had on the pump manager and the connector, it's our sustainable, like one of those moments where you're like, we're going to get something cool. And I think it is that like love for connectivity as well from our business and sustainability. So go into pump manager.
Yeah. Please. Okay. No worries. So a bit of an anecdote. So what we find is when we connect pumps, we're able to get the data and we can detect things like deadheading and excessive vibration. There's some really cool, neat things we can do from a pump perspective. But one of the more common things we would see is deadheading. So for you, this is a pump forum. So for most of your listeners, I'm sure they know what that is. But generally, what that means is that there's a valve downstream of the pump that's slammed shut. And so the pump's just, creating all this pressure, but the water's just not going anywhere, to put it in simple terms. And that actually has nothing to do with the pump, right? It has to do with the system. And so with looking closer at your pumps, you can actually have insights into what's happening with your system. And we see that a lot, right? We see that a lot. So we'll have some of our connected users, they say, hey, I'm getting all these deadhead alarms, text messages and emails. And a lot of the people who use Pump Manager aren't necessarily pump experts, so they don't know. And we'll say, hey, that usually means blah, blah, blah. Take a look. And then we'll get a message back later saying, oh, yeah, we found a valve that's not responding to whatever. And so we fixed it. And then the alarm goes away, right? And so that is a very common thing that actually has nothing to do with the pump itself. And you start to
Yeah.
get insights into what's happening with your system. Kind of like the analogy I would use is one of the things we say at Armstrong is the pump's the heart of the system. So like the human body, usually if you have issues happening elsewhere, like in your lungs or your brain, or you get cold feet at night because you have poor circulation, and so the your heart has to work harder to move blood through your body, just like your pump in an HVAC system has to work harder when you have obstructions and piping and all that kind of stuff. And when you use that analogy, people are like, okay, yeah, I get it. Right.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so
Well, we make a joke for years about it's never the pump, it's always, the valve or something like that. And leaving a valve open or closed, that is one of the common things. But for me, I have to touch on this just for a second. I had open heart surgery, and it was a birth defect from a valve. It was a bicuspid versus a tricuspid. So just a little off. They repaired it and it was good. But like that is what it was, is like, my heart is fine. We're just making sure that our heart stays fine, right? So we're going to make sure that we take care of it, put the systems in place, make sure the pipes are all clean, that we have to do that with our equipment. And so
Absolutely.
I love that analogy. Hit me home. Don't think you didn't stress me out or anything.
Okay.
Like I'm good to go. I love sharing that because I think that, it's a part of me now. I'm super strong. But it is kind of that mechanical side. It's kind of a fun little take on that, the challenge of Charli. But I think that you just breaking it down for us too in that kind of simple form. I think that's what it's about, that training and education and getting people on board. It has to be a good communicator in that. And I think that that's kind of the bridge. You've got mechanical background here, engineering background, but you did, learn this way to communicate with others. Now, how did you get that? Do you feel like that's just kind of natural, but how did you get that communication side?
Yeah, I guess I've always been, I used to be the kid in the class that the teacher always used to tell, stop talking at the back of the class. So for sure, there's some of that for sure. But I actually like watching some of like my favorite public speakers, like on YouTube. And Simon Sinek is one of my favorite writers on leadership, and he's like a great speaker. And there's lots of free resources on YouTube. You don't have to spend $1,000 on a Toastmasters or however much that is. And they got lots of great advice. And I take a little bit from that person and take a little bit from that person. I have my own little style. I like to have casual conversations. I can do the more formal and the professional speak, but I like to just kind of like over a coffee or a beer. If I can talk like that, that's when I'm at my best.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of a style that I evolved over the years.
Yeah, well, being yourself, which I love, and just jumping on here, and I think you're relatable to people. And like I said, I've met you, I've watched you. We love to interview. I love how you're so just willing to jump in and have a conversation. And I think that's what industry needs. And so, I mean, that's really what today's about, is having that. I will ask though, just since I've got you here, on leadership and just leadership in general. What are some tips, that you would give for industry? It could be for somebody higher up, or it could be for somebody that you're bringing in. What would you like to see as far as leadership goes within our industry?
I think my experience has been, people tend to think of leadership as sort of this top down sort of thing, right? So you have these really highly paid people at the top, and then you have all the minions, the minions beneath them. But I read this book, 360 Leader. The name escapes me of who the author was, but they talk about 360 leadership. And yes, of course, there's this idea of leadership from the general down to the soldiers in the trenches, of course. But there's also leadership across, leadership with your peers. And then there's also leadership up, leading up. That's a term that you can Google for your listeners. And that's a thing too. How do you lead your CEO? That's kind of weird, right? People don't think of it like that, but it's true. The 360, right? Across, up, and down. And when you take that perspective, I think it transforms the way in which you view what it means to be a leader. Leader doesn't always necessarily like wag your finger. That's not always necessarily leader. Lead by example, right? That's another way you can lead. Lead by supporting. right? And so that's just my view of how it is. And again, Simon Sinek talks, he should send me a check because I'm giving him a plug here for his books, talks about this. And I just read some books on leadership, and I just kind of take a little bit from that author and that author and that author, and kind of just came up with my own formula.
This is a pattern for leaders as they evolve. Okay. We're going to have a conference called Empowering Pumps and Industry Conference called EPIC. We have it in November, the 12th and the 13th. In the Colorado School of Mines. So we're gonna do some cool look at the mines, get with the students and bring in both our emerging leaders and then leaders that have been doing this for years. And what made me think of that is because we were actually talking about, I want someone to talk about kind of managing up or leading up. So I love that. I'll be circling back for you.
Okay.
I want to grab Gloria if she'll jump in here again on just leadership and marketing. I know you've got to have some type of, process and kind of getting the idea across. Do you want to jump in and give your thoughts on leadership and marketing?
Yeah, of course. Well, I also wrote a book, but I don't remember the title at all. It was such a long time ago. But I read that leadership is not one style, but it's like caters to people. It adapts to people. So a great leadership, because some people may be like good at the strict style, or some people might be work better in the flexibility. So a leadership that can really bring out the best in people. I heard that's one of the great leadership, and I think I really worked well under that. And that is the leadership I also experienced that really helps thrive in different personalities and for people with different culture as well. So I think that that is something that I experienced in the past.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think it is important to meet your employees where they're at too. Meet your family members or whoever it is, to meet them where they're at. I think that's great. And being able to manage, you've got to be able to have a conversation with someone. It all goes back to that of, have you created space for people to communicate with you and give you that feedback or not? And so I think that's really, really key. So as we kind of close out here, I want to kind of give you both the last word. And, regardless of how I design this kind of editing out and how we do it, but if you will just kind of, what is some advice that you would give somebody coming into the industry? And Gloria, why don't we let Gloria go first on that?
Sure.
Because she's just now coming in, so I'm curious.
Oh, that's fair.
Right.
That's fair.
I guess the advice is to be open-minded. I mean, there's lots of information, lots of technical information that you need to learn. And I think this might be sensitive, not sure if I should say that, but it's a very conservative, a very traditional industry. And so I think being open-minded for new information, taking the new technology, new approach, I think that's very important. And also make it interesting. There's a lot of technical information I'm still learning, but I think the more you learn, at first I was overwhelmed, but when I took it very slow, I actually found it very interesting. And I definitely thought physics was not my cup of tea, but it was, I think it's also the environment that made this really cool. But being open-minded, taking things slow, making more interesting. I think how you take it, I think that really helped me to kind of get absorbed into this HVAC industry.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody earlier today actually about that. And, I think that the challenge for marketing in a technical space, you have to kind of dig into that creativity side even more. And so I love it. I love that challenge, I guess, but it is a challenge. And so just kind of keeping that in mind, it's not a positive or a negative. It's just a challenge and that's where we need good marketers. We need that creativity. And we need good engineers who also love to tell a story. So on your side, what is some advice or, what recommendation would you give to people?
Me? You're talking to me?
Yeah, am I engineer at the table?
I would say networking, network. I mean, HVAC industry, there's lots of companies that, whether it's like a ABC, what plumbing, or 123 mechanical, whatever. But really at the top end, there's like a handful of them. The Honeywells, the JCIs, the Armstrongs, the Avapcos, and they all know each other, and they've all worked at each other. Like people who work in those organizations, especially at the top levels, probably worked at 2 or 3 of the other organizations. And so networking goes a long way to be able to allow your career to blossom. You look at some people's resumes and they went from Honeywell to Vapco to Armstrong back to like we all know each other. So if you can, especially for new people into the industry, going to the different events, the AHRs and the hydraulic institutes and all the different organizations and the events that they do, like the Empowering Pumps Conference, I totally recommend it, because that's how you're able to put yourself in a position to be successful.
Absolutely. Well, I just have to thank you so much for your time. I've enjoyed the conversation like always, and I am looking forward to it. Kind of looking forward. I'll be watching kind of what's next. But if somebody wanted to reach out and talk with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, I mean, our corporate website at armstrongfluidtechnology.com, you can reach us there. If you want to speak to me directly, LinkedIn's probably the best. I try to check it every couple of days. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Tunji Asiwaju, or my email, TASIWAJU at armstrongfluidtechnology.com. There's only so many Tunji Asiwajus on LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah.
So if you
I
just
mean, there's only one Tunji for me. I don't know anybody else. So there's just one.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so definitely get connected with him. And I think, as we move forward, we're going to have more of these conversations about collaboration and networking, and because I think that's what the future needs.
Right.
Whatever that term is they come up with, we all need to know it. We don't need to, just hide it for ourselves. So until next time, everybody, be empowering.